Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God, keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Amen. Spend Yehuda, man. High levels, bro, high as could be. Word to Ras Tafari, there's a holler in me. Every morning when I wake up, spend time on my knees. No sneezing necessary, the blessings received. Who lesser than me? Not a soul. We all got it and passed on it like common codes. I got tired of blowing it like a snotty nose. When will He return? Nobody knows. So I plant my seeds daily and water the field. There's a lot of people out here ignoring He real. Putting money before Him wasn't part of the deal. So I was being popular for a part of His meal. Feed me, Ezekiel, no Elliot. Heaven sent in the world full of these Hellenists. These Greek lovers, these genociders, these terrorists. The book's burning, give us another Exodus. I wanna see my people prosper.
You know, we have ones that's Ras Tafari, live in the city, Kingston City, Manhattan,
Yeah.
like I, you know. We live amongst our universal brothers and sisters, and Rastafari is for each and every one. So it's not this weird thing where you have to live in the forest, no. But you have ones that live in the forest, and they hold an order for the ones like I and I who can come in now and hold our meds and come to these places and remove ourselves from that type of way and still come find our brothers in the midst of the jungle as well as in the city.
Exactly.
So it's a brotherhood throughout universe.
Yeah,
iPhones included, cameras included, cars included, planes,
everything, man.
palace,
Yes, man.
huts,
Yes, man.
rivers, ocean, the whole thing. Huh?
Yeah, and the thing about it too as well is that Rastafari is not a cult. Yes?
No.
So we're not looking for more followers to say, hey, everyone have to come and be Rastafari. No, we're looking at people and their heart.
We are all about love.
All right, and so while many tariffs have been placed across many different nations, and the European Union nations not being spared, just a couple of months ago or so, with the new administration here in the United States, here in USA Today, and from the Associated Press, entitled "The European Union or the EU Vows to Retaliate Against U.S. Tariffs." And so reading on into this just to catch ones up, in Paris, the European Union warned Thursday it will retaliate against the U.S. decision to slap tariffs on a range of the bloc's imports, from cheese to wine, that could cause job losses in Europe and price increases for Americans. The Trump administration's decision to put a new import tax or import taxes on EU goods worth $7.5 billion opened a new chapter in the global trade wars that are heightening fears of a global recession. The latest tariffs target large aircraft, but also many typical European products such as olives, whiskey, wine, cheese, and yogurt. They will take effect October 18th and amount to a 10% tax on European Union or EU aircraft and steep 25% rate on everything else. The U.S. got the legal go-ahead Wednesday from the World Trade Organization, or the WTO, in a case involving illegal EU subsidies for plane maker Airbus. But the EU is expecting a similar case involving U.S. subsidies for Boeing to go in its favor, with a ruling due in coming months. It has said it hopes the two sides can hold off new tariffs, which economically amount to taxes on domestic importers. Sometimes importers pass on the higher cost to consumers, making goods more expensive. If the U.S. imposes countermeasures, it will be pushing the EU or the European Union into a situation where we will have to do the same, said the European Commission's spokesman Daniel Rosario, echoing the dark outlook expressed by many EU governments. This is a move that will first and foremost hit U.S. consumers and companies and will make efforts towards a negotiated settlement more complicated, he said. Mindful that the tariffs do not actually come into effect for a couple of weeks, Rosario stressed that the EU is still open to talking. The tariffs come on top of existing ones that the U.S. and EU exchanged last year and multiply the headaches for European businesses fretting over Brexit, which could see Britain leave the EU on October 31st, the end of this month, without a deal, meaning new tariffs overnight on the heavy flow of trade across the channel. More broadly, the tariffs add to uncertainty for the global economy, which has been hit particularly hard by the U.S.'s bigger and nastier trade war with China. It all adds up to a grim outlook for exporters and manufacturers, which are cutting down on investment. The head of the Spanish Federation of Food and Beverage Industries, Mauricio Garcia de Quavera, said the new U.S. tariffs would make it harder for the companies he represents to compete internationally. And that will contribute to job losses, he said, without providing detail. The United States is the Spain's sector's second biggest food and beverage client after the EU, according to the Federation. The sector exported 1.7 billion euros, equaling $1.9 billion last year. Miguel Blanco, the Secretary General of Spain's farming sector umbrella group, COAG, representing more than 15,000 Spanish farmers and livestock breeders, said the tariffs are completely unfair and overblown, quote unquote. Once again, the farming sector is going to pay for an EU trade war, which has nothing to do with the Spanish countryside, Blanco said, according to Europa Press. In Germany, which has Europe's largest economy and focuses heavily on exports, the Federation of Industry said the U.S. was using the WTO, or the World Trade Organization, ruling to intensify trade disputes. President Donald Trump has threatened in the past to impose tariffs on European cars, a huge sector in Germany, and some fear this week's escalation could lead to that. Joachim Lang, the head of Federation of German Industries, said there is a risk that many industries on both sides of the Atlantic will find themselves in a lose-lose situation. And that concludes the reading here for this report. And, to gain a bit more insight on what we are seeing now between things going on across the pond as far as the United States and, for the better part, Germany and England, but again, encompassing the entirety of Western Europe as far as the European Union is concerned, the 28-member state, which is soon to be a 27-member state, pending Brexit finally comes to some climactic end with the UK leaving the European Union as a member state and without a trade deal for that matter. All of these things kind of come to play over the things that we've been speaking about for the past few months to the past couple of years. Not only on Brexit with the UK and the European Union, but also pending, as one can see here, many of the exports from Europe come from aircraft or the aircraft industries, mainly from Airbus, which is a European, and the last time we checked, a Dutch aircraft manufacturer. And we saw this coming, of course, with the whole Boeing issues that were stemming from a lot of the whistleblowing and much of the neglect that we saw. And of course, all of the things that stemmed from that fallout, the congressional hearing, and even mentioned to many ones here behind the scenes that actually inquired a little bit more about, especially the two crashes that took place with Boeing aircraft on two major airlines. We saw a bit of that coming down the pipeline as far as Boeing, maybe having a little slippage in their place as one of the major aircraft manufacturers. And we definitely saw Airbus as one, of course, as a European aircraft manufacturer, taking its place just in the simplicity of having many of the airliners across the world now where the standard is safety. So that all plays a part. Many of these things, kind of coming down the pipeline. And I guess we can say that this U.S. administration at this point is pretty much fighting for its life in a sense. Ones may not see it as such, but if you actually knew even just a smidget of the details behind the scenes, and we can even say that we know a few things here or there when we're not the most versed, but it's starting to become very telegraphed what we are seeing here throughout the world, throughout politics, socioeconomics, whatever that matter may be, when one's kind of see a lot of, the trees falling in that sense.